I'm gonna show you one of my all-time favorite recipes to cook when I'm out camping, and that's because it's so easy and it's so incredibly delicious too. It's a really basic but incredibly yum beef stew. So in terms of ingredients, we got a kilo of nice, simple, affordable chuck beef. That's perfect for this recipe. Just got the basics. We've got some nice olive oil and some salt and pepper, a bit of smoked paprika, got a little bit of rosemary, a little bit of dried thyme leaves. This here is a key. We've got some nice Worcestershire sauce, a little bit of very cheap red wine, nothing fancy about that. 4 large carrots, got a large onion. Gonna chuck about 2 bay leaves in, a couple of these tins of whole potatoes, got a little bit of tomato paste, some beef stock, and then just because I love them, we've got some little button mushrooms too. So I'm cooking on the Adventure King's premium camp oven stove today. I've got the optional triple pack of barbecue hot plates and I've got an Aussie camp oven. And you'll see over the course of this recipe just how good this whole setup is. If you hang around till a little bit later, I'll go through it in more detail and really show you what makes this thing tick. Okay, so because it's a stew, what we need to do before we get everything going in the pot is we need to dice up the beef and brown it off. That way it's got a nice little bark crust around the edges of each of the individual pieces, rather than just being like grey meat when it's all stewed down. So first off, let's get a little bit of oil going. Okay, so let's cube up the meat. So the good thing about this stew is you don't actually cut things up too fine, because when all the meat stews down, it'll just sort of disintegrate into nothing. So look, the best part about cooking when you're camping is you don't have to be perfect. You just got to do it. So we'll just dice it up, roughly even sort of bits. Something I definitely love about this King's premium camp oven stove is you can add these cool triple pack of optional barbecue hot plates. It's not sitting right on top of it, so it sort of regulates heat. It's not going to burn the bottom of what's happening. You can control temperature a lot better. Then you've also got nice, sturdy working surfaces to do a little bit of meal prep like we're doing here. So a lot of people will throw away these gristly bits, but don't reckon you should, especially when you're doing a stew. So what you're doing is you're throwing this meat in at nice low temperatures, breaks down all the sinew and the fat and the chewy bits, just becomes delicious at the end. So if you want to get a bit more heat into the food that you're cooking on the camp oven stove, you can actually remove either of the two-piece lid. So you've got this circular inner bit that you can remove if you just want a little bit of heat. If you really want to sear something off, you can completely take this large piece off, and you can actually do it while it's all fired up. So now that's beautifully browned, we'll chuck the carrot in, around about that same size as each of the cubes of beef. Pretty much perfect. All right, so $2 chuck. Actually, this was about $6, but still just about the cheapest cooking wine that I could find at the bottle I went to. About a cup of that in there. It's about a cup. So the thing you want to do here is let that wine cook down. It does 2 things. First of all, it deglazes the pan, gets all those really yummy, crusty bits that have cooked out of the beef off the bottom of the pan, lifts them up and brings them back in the middle of the stew. Other thing it does is it actually boils the alcohol away. So while we want the taste, we don't want alcohol, we're not making a grog log here. Righto, so yeah, that's nice. That's been about 10 minutes or so. And if you want a rough guide to how long you need to cook that wine off, basically until you stop smelling the really strong wine smell. So beef stock is next. We'll put about 3/4 of this thing in. Perfect, all right, so onions. Now, a lot of people like to put onions in at the beginning. You can definitely fry them off with the beef, get a nice flavour straight into the beef, but because it's a stew, what we're gonna do is stew the onion a little bit. So we're on the home stretch now. It's all about adding flavour into this stew. So, a couple of nice big heaped tablespoons of tomato paste. Gives it a nice thickness and good colour too. A few more seasonings, a bit of rosemary, a little bit of smoked paprika, a bit of thyme. Also, a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. And the good thing about when you're seasoning it towards the end of cooking it like this is, if it gets towards the end and it's a little bit bland, you can just add a bit more in. Beautiful, and that is smelling awesome already. And then the mighty mushies. Now, good to put them in at the end there because again, they're just gonna stew down. You don't need to chuck them in at the beginning and really fry them down because then by the end of the stew, they're just not gonna exist, they're just gonna disappear. So around about this time is perfect. And then finally, we'll just go for a nice healthy dose of the good stuff. Just before we put that lid back on, let it stew for the next hour, a couple of these little fellas bay leaves. Now, they add some awesome flavour to stews. Perfect. Let's let it stew. So we'll let that stew away for the next, I don't know, 45 minutes, hour or something like that. Just chuck a bit more charcoal in there. Definitely don't want super hot heat, so all it's gonna do is dry it out. We just want it nice and low and steady. And I reckon this is the perfect time to show you through this new premium camp oven stove that I've been cooking on today, because this thing is an absolute cracker. I honestly love this thing because you can cook on it in a heap of different ways. Plus, it works as a raised enclosed fire pit too. You can run it on wood or charcoal or heat beads in the backyard or at your favourite campsite. Add on the optional vertical offset smoker and you'll be smoking incredible low and slow barbecue meat in no time. There's enough room to do anything on here, from ribs to a monster brisket. And I love using it in the backyard on a lazy arvo as much as I love taking it camping with me. And as you've seen, I've been using the optional barbecue hot plate triple pack today. This adds even more sturdy spaces to meal prep, to cook, and to keep your food warm on. I really rate this as an essential add-on to your premium camp oven stove. And then there's the Butte 3 litre stainless steel water boiler. It uses the heat of the firebox to boil up water for a cuppa, or to cook, or to wash up your dishes when you're done. It's a must-have in my books. Whew, that is looking beautiful, even if I do say so myself. So it's looking really good, but I think what I'm going to do is, for the next probably half an hour or so, I'm going to leave the lid off and just let it bubble away. That way it's going to thicken up really nicely. Whew, yum. Now that is looking incredible. Beautiful consistency, it's thickened up really nice and looks good. Very final ingredient. These little fellas, a couple of tins, whole potatoes. Now, they're already cooked, they don't need cooking, so if you put them in too early, it's going to turn to mush, and we're not cooking mashed potatoes here. So in the last 5 minutes, all you do is just chuck them in, and we're just literally going to let them come up to temperature. Whew, there we go, done and dusted. Cooking on the Adventure King's premium camp oven stove is so easy. That there is a one pot wonder, and it's an absolute cracker. Hope you enjoy it. Cheers, boys.